Calico block. It finishes at 12 inches. Here is the diagram. We're going to be doing a lot of stitch and flip or folded corner clippers on this because these are chisel units, and that's the easiest way that I know how to do these and most accurate way. Here's what the block looks like if you have 4 together, and I have a very narrow sashing between them. If you wanted to put these blocks together, I suggest you put some kind of sashing. Otherwise, you'd have to match every one of these points here, and that would get very tedious as you put the block together. But if you want a challenge, just go for it. I have videos on the stitch and flip method and on the folded corner clipper method. If you scan these with your phone, that'll take you to that video. I'm going to demo it briefly in this video. We have 4 patches. The first one, patch A, is a 2-inch finished square. We'll cut 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches, and we need 20 patches for the background. These are all the squares we're going to use for the stitch and flip. Patch B is a half square triangle, 2-inch finished. We cut squares at 2 7/8 inches and cut them in half diagonally once, so we have 2 patches. We need 4 patches for the background, so that means from the background you'll need to cut 2 squares and cut each in half diagonally to get your 4 patches. And we'll need the same thing for assorted fabrics. There are actually 16 different fabrics in here, and I just chose from my little scrap bin, and I tried to choose little bitty smaller prints. Patch C is a 2-inch by 4-inch finished rectangle. We'll cut 4.5 inches by 2.5 inches, and we'll need 8 assorted patches. That is for these chisels here. Patch D is a 2-inch by 6-inch finished rectangle, 6.5 inches cut by 2.5 inches, and we'll need 4 assorted patches as well. Now, let's look at the block, and we've been talking about grids, so let's look at this grid. And why am I telling you about all these grids? I want you to be able to look at a block that you see and be able to replicate it yourself. You first have to understand how the block is put together, so we kind of take it apart before we can put it back together. And I didn't realize that this was a 2x2 grid. Here's a grid here, and then 2 across and 2 down. I didn't realize it was a 2x2 grid until I started drawing it out. And if you have some graph paper or if you have electric quilt, you can draw this out and it'll start making a lot of sense to you. Let's cover this up. Let's use one of these. If I cover this up and cover this up, there is our patches that go in this one grid here. And we're simply going to make 4 of these. And then if you look next door, you'll see that it's rotated. Here's patch D, and it's down at the bottom. And here it is on the left-hand side. And if we keep looking, here's patch D up at the top, and here it is on the right-hand side. So if you break this down to one simple unit like this, then you can see how the block itself is put together. So we'll have, this is a square for patch A, this is patch B, which is the half square triangle, and then these 2 are single chisel units where there's the stitch and flip is on this side to create this chisel, and patch D has 2 chisels, and it actually looks like a trapezoid. So once you understand that, then it's a lot easier to see how the block goes together as the whole. I went to my scrap bin for these fabrics. I just chose 16 of them, and there are 4 here and then 8 and 4. The half square triangles we're simply going to piece and make half square triangles. These are the B block patches. And 4 of these squares are going to go in the corners, but all of the other squares are going to be used for a stitch and flip. And here's how we stitch and flip. This is going to be the small chisel, and we have 2 of those. I've already drawn a line here. If you look at the chisel here, this is the 4-inch finished. And we're going to place it just like this and make sure that our stitch and flip goes in this direction. So here it is. This is the 4.5-inch finished, and we're going to cut off this corner. First I'll show you with stitch and flip, and then I'll show you this one, the same one, and we'll also go in the same direction with this to do with the folded corner clipper. I've used a pencil to draw a diagonal line on the back side of this square. Next, I'm going to stitch just to the right of this line. I'm not going to stitch exactly on it. That helps when you flip it the other way to line up easier on the sides. Now I've stitched just the right-hand side, this side of the drawn line, and we're going to wait on that, and I'm going to show you how you do the folded corner clipper. This is what the folded corner clipper looks like, and we're just going to line it up with these markings and cut off the corner. We want this to be the same direction as this. We're going to cut off this corner, and we're cutting off this corner. So it'll look like this when we flip it. The markings on here, there's a flat edge up here. You line it up with the top of this. You line up the side, and in this case we're lining up the 2.5-inch mark, and then there's a little mark here. We do that, line it all up, and then cut it off. And if you see what this does, it measures this and tells you where to cut it off. After you cut this off, then you're going to stitch 1/4 inch this way. I was explaining to you what I was doing, and I did not turn on the record button. I stitched 1/4 inch here, and when I flip this over, I'll get the chisel unit. And then this is what I had previously cut off for the folded corner clipper method. Next, I came over here and cut this off, trimmed this 1/4 inch away from the stitching. So you see we ended up with exactly the same results on both of these using the 2 different methods. For the stitch and flip method, we stitched, then cut, then flipped it over. For the folded corner, we cut, then stitch, and fold it over. But we get the same results. So you can, either way you want to do it, or if you have another kind of ruler that does it, go for it. Whatever gets you the results you want. Now we'll just press these open when they're done. I would go through now and take all of your C patches and the corresponding number of your squares and do your stitch and flip on all of the C patches. Now we have all of our chisel units done, and they're pressed open. And we've also done our half square triangles, and they are pressed open, and the little nubs have been cut off. Next, the last thing we're going to do is the large trapezoids, and we do this with the 6.5-inch cut rectangles. Now you have to be careful which ends you cut off. Choose one side and cut off the ends on both of them like this. It's going to look kind of like a little boat, so just kind of pay attention to what you're doing. And we're going to trim these on opposite corners like this. Opposite corners, but on the same side. So the upper left and upper right corners you're going to cut off and trim. And so you'll have a chisel unit over here and a chisel unit over here. We end up with a trapezoid shape. And here we have our trapezoids are done. Let's put together one of the corner units. Since they're all going to be the same, let's start with just one. A trapezoid, a half square triangle, 2 chisel units, and a corner unit. And let's work on these right now. I'm just going to follow the diagram. This will be like this, and then this goes there, the corner goes here, and the 2 chisel units, let's choose a different one. 2 chisel units will go this way. So I'm going to piece this and show you what it looks like. I started by piecing the corner square and the half square triangle together, and they're pressed open. Then I pieced the 2 chisel units together. Next I'll piece these 2 together, and then piece the trapezoid to that. When you sew the trapezoid to the 2 chisel units and the half square triangle unit, there's one point here you want to make sure you don't cut off. If we flip this over, when you put the trapezoid unit together with this unit, the rest of the unit, put your trapezoid at the bottom, because if you pressed open, you'll be able to see where this triangle is, where these 3 fabrics meet. That's where you want your stitching line to go, right where those 3 fabrics intersect. And then when you open it and press it, you'll have a good point here that won't be cut off. Now I did my final pressing, and I'm going to make 3 more of these and then put the block together. I laid the pieces out on my prop-it board for the 3 other units or corners, and I've pieced the chisels together on all 3 of them, and I pieced the half square triangle and the square together on all 3 of them. Now I'll take this board to the ironing board, and I'll press everything and keep it in order because this is the way I like it, and then I'll finish the piecing. Here are all of the 4 finished units, and I'm just going to arrange them. So remember when we had them rotated. Here is the lower left, and let's rotate this a 1/4 turn, and let's rotate this twice, and this one 3 times. So let's check again. We have this at the bottom, the left, the top, the right. And now I'll just sew these 2 together and these 2 together, and then sew both the rows together, and the block will be finished. One more thing. You thought we were finished. You have 2 opportunities here to cut off points, so we want to make sure we don't do that. You'll want to put the trapezoid that's by itself at the bottom, and then here you have the trapezoid up here and the little chisel unit here. So let me just zoom in some more. This point here is where the 3 fabrics meet, so you'll want to put your pin right at that point, and then on the bottom part you want to measure down or eyeball a 1/4 inch from this, where these fabrics are, to the edge of the fabric, and then put your pin there and put it in. So when you stitch, you come down and you aim for that point, right where that is. The next one, when you come down, you're going to measure down from where these 2 fabrics intersect, and you're going to measure or eyeball a 1/4 inch from here to here. And do that on both sides there, and that's where you put your pin. You put your pin through there where they meet and through here where they meet. And then as you're stitching down, you aim for that pin where the pin goes into the fabric. And then when you open it up and press it, you'll have some pretty good matching points.